The Basketball Hall of Fame 60 Days of Summer is your chance to see your favorite basketball stars live and in person. Check hoophall.com for a complete list of all these exciting appearances and plan your trip today.
How you guys doing today? Good.
I didn't even ask if there were any Knicks fans in the stadium.
There are some, and even with the orange shirts, I'll just count those. I'll count those too.
You cover it. We're kind of in Celtics territory, but
It's okay.
It's okay, and everybody's NBA fans. Where are you coming in from today?
Connecticut, New York. I live on the border of New York and Connecticut.
Okay, just up the road.
Yeah, just up the road.
We appreciate your time to be here with everybody. Just a quick overview on your career. Obviously, people identify you most, and well, they well should with the New York Knicks. Great career there. Opportunity to play in one of the greatest cities in the world.
Yeah.
Just reflect quickly on your time with the Knicks.
Well, my time with the Knicks was great. I got drafted in 1990. I played in 1993, 94, and I got drafted 1993 by the Pistons. And played 3 years in Detroit, and two Hall of Famers, Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas, were mentors to me, and I played with them. I got a chance to play with Grant Hill when I was in Detroit. I became a free agent in '96, and I signed with the New York Knicks, and got a chance to play with Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Larry Johnson, Charles Oakley. And it was during a time when the Knicks had just lost to the Rockets in 1994. So 2 years later, I was signed, and John Starks just kind of brought me in and welcomed me and became like a big brother to me. But playing in New York was awesome. I mean, playing in Madison Square Garden, playing on the opposing team, you would come into Madison Square Garden and just be like, wow, I'm playing in the world's most famous arena. Mm-hmm. And all the greats who have played there, from not just basketball players, but musicians, and, Muhammad Ali, fought there. And so you're in this arena, and you're saying, I get to do this, 40 sometimes, or hopefully 50 sometimes a year. It was really amazing. The energy is amazing. How many people have ever been to a Knicks game or been to Madison Square Garden?
Pretty good.
Good. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? Well, I mean, imagine playing on the court. And one of the things that stuck out to me is when I signed there, is that the executives and the team presidents at the time shared with me that they wanted Madison Square Garden to feel almost like a Broadway. So if you go to Broadway, you notice that the stage is lit up and everything is dark in the crowd. And it was one of the first arenas where they really wanted the players to feel like you were on stage entertaining. So they made the crowd a little darker, and so when you're on that court, you almost feel like you're on a stage. And it was really an amazing feeling with a lot of energy.
That's neat. Now, you've been retired 10 years. We have some older guys, we've got some younger guys. Some maybe remember you playing, some may not have seen you. If you could compare yourself maybe to an NBA player today, skill set and the way you play, is there anybody in particular that comes to mind?
Well, I remember a lot of people, when Klay Thompson was being drafted, people were telling him that that's who the comparison was. Yeah, I would say that. And a guy that just kind of recently retired was Brandon Roy.
Sure.
I think he would probably be the one. He was a little bigger. But I guess those two guys would be similar. I think Bradley Beal is maybe another guy who's playing a little bit now.
Yeah. Now, 12 seasons in the NBA. You mentioned some of the guys you played with. You played against some great ones in particular. And one of our favorite questions here is you had an opportunity to play against Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And what was that? What was that like?
Well, playing against Michael, at the time, I just didn't have as much of an appreciation for it as I probably do now. At the time, the Knicks and the Bulls were big rivals, and when you're going into competing against someone as an athlete, anyone you played against, I don't care how old you are, you know the person that you're playing against. You know how good they are. You know the type of challenge it's going to be. Sometimes you know you might be better than that person. You know that they might have a little edge. They might be taller. So as a competitor, the Knicks were always in a very intense battle with certain teams. One of them was the Bulls when I first got to New York. So I didn't have time to think about and appreciate that you're playing against, probably the best player to ever play. The only thing I was really thinking about was how am I going to make it difficult on him and on both ends as much as possible. Playing against Michael was tough because he was very explosive. He didn't have to dribble the ball a lot. He got to where he wanted to go because he had really good fundamentals. He had really good footwork. But the thing that sticks out to me most is that how quick and strong he was and how quick he got off the ground. So Michael knew kind of what areas he wanted to go to. So when you were defending him, he would kind of set you up one way and get to one spot and just elevate. And there was really nothing you could do because he got off the ground so quick. And then when he was able to shoot the ball better and better every year, it just made it that much more difficult. And now, kind of understanding more about the triangle offense from working with Phil Jackson and Derek Fisher and the Knicks staff, I have a better appreciation for how he was able to be so effective, because now I can see how he had a very intelligent way to view the game. He didn't have to rush. He kind of set up things on the floor where he was on this side of the floor, but he knew he was going to get to another side of the floor to be in position. And he just was a very athletic but cerebral. He was a smart player. A lot of players, if they're very athletic, they're not as cerebral because you have to use your speed and strength to get the advantage. Well, Michael was able to do both. He was able to use his intelligence, but also his footwork, his strength, his athleticism to gain the advantage. And the last thing about Michael was that he never took a possession off mentally. If you notice some of your coaches, for those of you who play sports, they will probably tell you that sometimes you kind of drift, and make a couple of mistakes, mental mistakes, and it's natural because as you're growing, those things happen, especially as you get tired. But Michael was so good at every possession, it was almost like the last one. And when you can get to a point where every possession you're very paying attention to everything on the floor and you're not making mental mistakes, that's when you become really, really good as an individual and as a team, and that's what he was very good at.
Good. Now, we have a lot of young guys, young girls, boys here who are probably just starting their basketball career. Yeah. You're a son of a coach. I mean, you started at an early age. I mean, basketball's really been a big part of your life.
Yeah, basketball's been a big part of my life. I learned literally to walk on a basketball court. My father was a high school coach, and he went on to coach at the University of Louisville. The University of Louisville has 3 national championships where my father was kind of the lead assistant coach, head recruiter when they won the first 2 national championships. So for me growing up, and when I was your age, I was watching all the practices and all the summer camps and going to the Final Fours with the University of Louisville, almost like I was, on the team. And what I learned from that experience is I learned how hard great players work. A lot of people look at great players or people that are great in anything they do, and you don't realize how hard they really work. And so I got to see every day, I got to see how hard they practice. I got to see how they paid attention to the details of the game. They just didn't go out and play. They were very attentive to their assignments, what they were supposed to do on the floor, and they were very competitive. so they played hard against each other. But I learned a lot of fundamentals of the game at an early age because I was in basketball camps. The footwork, how to pass the ball, and just how to get open, how to shoot the ball, and those were just basic fundamentals that, playing with my father and learning from him at an early age, it was very helpful.
Now, you're talking about at an early age. Your high school team won a state championship, maybe your senior year?
Junior year.
Junior year. As a sophomore, apparently you had played at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, 22,000 people. I mean, here you are, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
And it showed you could handle that spotlight at an early age.
Yeah, well, high school basketball in Kentucky when I was growing up was very big. The youth, the AAU system, and things were a little different. You didn't have travel teams all summer playing AAU tournaments in different parts of the country. And so now you might have a high school team or AAU team that is very good, and you never know where they're from. Where in Kentucky, we didn't know a whole lot about other high school teams and other players. We would kind of read about them, maybe hear about them, but you didn't get a chance to play against a lot of those teams or players unless you were playing in national games. So the high school setting for your state was very intense. So every region in the state, you had 16 regions. Every region had one winner. So there were no Class A's, no Class 2A, 3A. It was one winner from each region and one state champion. And so it was a very big deal to go to the state tournament. In Rupp Arena, where the University of Kentucky plays, had 23,000 people. And so as a sophomore in high school, we got to the state championship, and we lost in overtime. And I remember Rex Chapman, who was a great player for the University of Kentucky at the time. He came back after we lost in the state finals, and he said, "Hey, you just keep working, you're going to be a really good player." And so for me, hearing that from someone who I didn't know, but who's already one of the top players in college at the time, was encouraging, and I'd already played against some of the Louisville players in the gym in summer. So for me, it was just about trying to play against the best players that I could possibly play against.
Now, fast forward, after your time at Tennessee, you went to the NBA draft. First round pick, number 11 by Detroit. You mentioned you moved on to the Knicks as a free agent. I'm going to guess some of the highlights with your stay at the Knicks. 1999, reaching the finals and losing to the Spurs. And also a great, which people may remember you most by, is the buzzer beater to beat the Heat in the first round of '99 playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, when I got to the Knicks, one of the reasons that was so fun about playing in the Knicks is that the Knicks were always a championship contender. When I first got there, we were always expected to go deep in the playoffs, and playing in the playoffs in New York, I mean, just nothing like it. So those experiences playing against the Miami Heats, the Indiana Pacers, even the Charlotte Hornets when they were the Charlotte Hornets back then. Right. I mean, going through those series and those rivalries were very intense. But then getting to the NBA Finals, as you said, was amazing. It really was. Unfortunately, we lost to the San Antonio Spurs. It was Tim Duncan's first year. And it was his first championship. And so it really showed how hard it is not just to get to the NBA Finals, but to win it, and also to get back to the Finals for those teams who have gotten there and won it and who have kind of returned. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of good fortune, health. A lot of things have to happen for that to happen.
In the course of your career, you had the opportunity to play on the U.S. Olympic team, 2000 in Sydney, won the gold medal. I mean, that must be an experience that must be priceless.
Yeah, I mean, winning a gold medal, that's one of the things, if you go all over the world, a lot of people that aren't basketball fans can identify with the Olympics. Having a gold medal is something that any athlete around the world, that's like the highest you can reach. And so to say that you are part of that is really amazing. I mean, walking in the Olympic Stadium, you're walking. One of the biggest memories for me was the opening ceremonies when all the countries, every athlete in the Olympics literally is walking through this stadium in the same ceremony. You know, all the athletes, if you can remember watching in the Olympics, all the athletes have the same suit, they're carrying their flag, and you're walking literally on the same team as other athletes, whether it's tennis players, track and field, whatever. You're literally kind of walking next to them with the same flag, the same uniform. So that was pretty special.
I want to get to answer a couple of questions I asked before we stepped out here. Muhammad Ali grew up a couple doors down from your mom's house, where you lived, and he came to your second birthday party.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of Muhammad Ali just stories my parents have told me, and you know, coming back from fights when his mouth was wired shut, from his jaw being broken, to him going to restaurants and not being served because he was black. You know, this was in the 60s when the world's greatest athlete at some points was denied access to certain public institutions, restaurants. And so hearing the stories about Muhammad Ali was quite amazing, and to know that he would treat everyone the exact same. Just love people, love children. And I have a picture of him coming and holding me when I was 2 years old. He came to a birthday party, and I actually remember seeing him again when I was a rookie at a big party for someone who was in Los Angeles. And I introduced myself, and he remembered me. He asked how my mother was doing. He asked how I was doing, and he was asking how many girlfriends I had. But he's just a great. I mean, he's a great figure, a historical figure. I think one of the greatest athletes and great people of all time.
Absolutely. Now, I know through your travels as well, you've had the opportunity. I don't know if you call him a friend, President Obama. He's been in your house. It's two pretty high-profile people.
Yeah, it's pretty special. When he was campaigning back in '08, some people around the Connecticut area were looking for someone to maybe host a fundraiser for him, and they called us, and we were like, sure,
Yeah.
It would be great. And just an admirer of him, not only as a person but as a leader, and the integrity with which he holds his position. And you can see how much he loves his family, and he's committed to his family, and that's really what I admire about him.
Now, he has a passion for basketball, people know, and you had an opportunity to play a little bit with him or shoot some baskets?
Didn't have an opportunity to play. We had a basket that when we passed by our basket at our home, we teased each other. I teased him a little bit about, hopefully we'd have time after his speech to come play, and he teased me about he's a Bulls fan.
Yeah.
So he teased me about that a little bit. But what he's doing with My Brother's Keeper is something that the NBA has really adopted and partnered with him on, and really addressing inspiring young men of color, to be mentors and to look to achieve and find people that they can look to help them grow and be the best they can be. And for him to take that and to make it an initiative that so many organizations can rally under is really amazing, for him to use his platform to do that.
Yeah. Now, these days you're part of the front office with the Knicks, but a lot of what you've done off the court since retiring is you're a champion of parenting, fatherhood, father-son relations, father-daughter relations. You have 7 kids. You married your high school sweetheart. The family, it's instrumental in any walk of life, basketball or not.
Yeah. Well, family is everything to me and my family. My father, again, playing for my father, I learned a lot about just growing up. I mean, I talked a little bit about my father taught me how to dribble basketball. He taught me how to shoot a basketball. But when you play for your father, when you play for your father, you learn a lot about things about what you can do off the court. And it really helped me understand that shooting the basketball is important. It can help you win games. Dribbling, passing can help you win games. But when you walk off the court, there are certain fundamentals that you have to identify with that help you move forward in anything you do. And so family was a way for us to color that picture and to show that. And so we've been very energetic and put a lot of energy into just helping youth and families develop. Because if you have as a father of 7, I take very seriously my role as a father. I know that they're looking to me for guidance. They're looking to me to just be with them, to spend time, to teach them things. There have been a lot of people who haven't had that father in their life, and they've made it. But if you can, why not give them the best opportunity and chance to be successful? And I feel like it takes a lot of energy and effort to do that. And basketball and sports are a great way to teach that.
Now, your kids are age 3
So
to
16, 14, 10, 7, 6, 4, and 3.
So you got them at all different stages, different challenges for each, for both sides. But
Right, five girls and 2 boys, and it's great because I get a chance to really spend time with them in different ways, and they're all different. It's almost like being a coach of a team. This player, this person has different ways that they can be great and good, and you have to understand that and learn to teach and love and develop the best you can, and understand that they're all different. But I think all you, the kids and you want to be the best. You want to be the best you can be. Nobody wants to be bad. Nobody wants to be in that situation. So we really just want to put them in the best situation to be successful.
Good. Now, as we continue with the 60 Days of Summer program here with former Knicks great Allan Houston, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to come up and ask a quick question of Allan. And if you have a question, please raise your hand. One of the guys on staff here at the Hall of Fame will point you out and we'll direct you over and we'll get you set up. We're looking for about 4 or 5 people to ask just a single question. I think a popular question here, Allan, is with your association with the Knicks. Mm-hmm. How can we fix the Knicks? You've got Phil Jackson in now. You've got some draft picks this year. You've got some stars. I mean, what's in your mind the direction that the Knicks are going in as the season gets underway here this fall? Well,
I think what Phil and Steve Mills and everyone has done has allowed us to be patient but aggressive at the same time. In my time, from being a free agent, from playing to retiring and to helping develop our D-League team to whatever pillar of the organization, I think people have to realize that anything that's great doesn't happen overnight.
Sure.
And we've had different coaches, we have different management teams. And I've been very fortunate to be a part of this journey. And Donnie Walsh allowed me, when I retired, to be a part of this. But it's like anything you do, it takes diligence, it takes patience. Our job is to evaluate and develop. And I'm happy that we're all learning a lot from Phil, from Steve, because I think they have the right mindset and approach to make this very successful.
Good. And we have so many kids here today, and obviously they have a love for basketball.
Okay.
Any
Turn
advice?
My phone off.
You got your phone. Any advice in particular for these kids, as they start on their basketball journey? I mean, we've got some high school guys here, younger guys.
Well, my simple answer is when we talk a lot about fundamentals, my father and I talk a lot about fundamentals of life, and we talk about 5 basic fundamentals that I would suggest. One, you have to have faith. You have to believe. You have to trust. You have to set goals. You have to identify goals. Even if they're very small goals, always set goals and always believe and trust in that process. A car cannot move unless the ignition is started. And I look at having a belief in yourself, setting goals, and envisioning what you want to do as starting the ignition to a car. You can't move unless you have that. The next one I would say is have integrity. Integrity is the thing that it has value in that you're doing something consistent, you're doing it every day. People can trust you, people can trust your word, people can trust that what you're doing, that they can count on you. And integrity is something that is very important. The third fundamental is sacrifice. There's nothing that you're going to be able to do that's worth it without discipline, without diligence, without working extremely hard and giving up something that you really that may be comfortable to get something that's worth it. The fourth is leadership. I think we talk about leadership in a vague way, and there are a lot of players and people on your team who may be named the captain or the team leader, but every single person in their own way can lead. And you can lead by example, you can lead by encouraging the next teammate, you can lead by, you don't have to say much. If you're just there, if you're the first one there every day, then to me, you're leading. And the last one is legacy. I believe that every single person, you have an impact somehow. So just think about the impact you're making on your teammates, think about the impact you're making on your teacher, think about the impact you're making on your coach. And what do people feel when they are in your presence? What do they feel? What do they experience when you're there? So I'll just talk about those 5 fundamentals, and that's my advice.
That's a good job. It's a great 5 points on advice to kids. Now we're going to open it up and have a couple guys come over and ask questions. We'll send them over. Come on over. I think we set a 60 Days of Summer record for Q&A line, but come on and just come on closer here. We'll tell us your name, where you're from, and your favorite player.
I'm from Jersey, and my favorite player is Stephen Curry.
What's your name again?
Heaven.
Wow, that's a great name. Did your parents tell you how they came up with that name? That's a great name. So what's your question?
Was you nervous when you went to the NBA?
Well, I think every game there's a little bit of part of every player that's a little nervous because you're so excited. You dream about what you're going to do, when you're going to take this shot, are you going to get a dunk? There's so many things that you think about. You think about a game-winning shot. But I'm going to tell you the one thing that takes away being nervous. The thing that takes away being nervous is practice. Because if you practiced enough and you've repeated it enough and you prepared enough, then when you get in that moment, the practice just takes over. So whenever I would kind of get nervous or think about before a game, and you see some people do like this, KD does his shoulders, and people do different things, you just think about all the practice you put in because that's the way the brain works. It goes to practice. It doesn't go to how nervous you are.
Good job. Having great question.
Good
great
question,
name, too.
man.
That's an all-name team.
What's that? Okay. Heaven is in the Poconos.
Thank you. Allan Houston, I'm a big Kid fan of yours.
Oh, thank you.
And first of all, to the children who may not ever seen Allan Houston shoot the ball, I would suggest that you Google or whatever social media you use to see Allan Houston shoot the ball. He's arguably one of the greatest three-point shooters in NBA history. With that said, in 1999, when you went up against the San Antonio Spurs and Patrick Ewing went down, did you really think you still had a chance in winning the championship? And how much in awe were you of David Robinson and a young Tim Duncan at that time?
Good question. So when we talked about those 5 fundamentals, can you guys remember the first one we talked about? Faith. So to me, you don't even get to that point without believing in yourself, believing in your teammates. When Patrick had gone down well before that series, He had gone down some even during that season, which were why we actually had to change the way we played. We had to change our style of play. In some ways it helped us, but in that way it hurt us because we were just not big enough. We knew that we had to play extremely well, not make a lot of mistakes. We had to use our speed. We had to shoot the ball well. But yeah, we knew we had a challenge in front of us, but I don't think you can never walk into a battle, a war, doubting, what you're going to do. You go out there and you do it, you believe in yourself, and then you live with what happens. Thank you.
Good question. Very good.
Yeah. What's your name?
I'm Gabriel.
Gabriel. Okay, I like these names, man. Gabriel.
I'm 17 and I'm going to college, and I want to know what can I do to improve my game at the college level, because I'm in the camp and I'm trying to get better, but
right.
I really don't have enough time to.
Well, it's a good question. Can y'all give it up for that question one more time? That's a good, great question. One of the things I would recommend you do is do what you just did. Ask for advice. Always, never stop learning. No matter where the game takes you, there will always be someone willing to help you if you're willing to humble yourself and ask for help. That's just the nature of relationships. But as far as your game, what is it that you do the best? The one thing that no matter if you play for 12 coaches, all 12 of those coaches will say, Gabriel does this, right? Find what that is, be the best you can be at it so that everybody knows you know. And one thing you don't ever want to go into a situation is second-guessing yourself, wondering what you're going to do, right? Because a double-minded man is always going to be unstable. You don't want to have things in your mind where you're thinking. So figure that out, work on that, bring that every night, and then you kind of work around it, improve the other skills around that skill or skills. For me, it was shooting. So I figured I'm going to be the best shooter I can be and let that set up the other things on my game. So I started working on, let me go work on 2 or 3 dribbles into my shot, and not just catch and shoot. Let me figure out now maybe I can go into the post, but still my shot was setting everything else up. So I think you have to figure out, without seeing you play, I would say go to your strengths, where the less thinking happens, the better. And then, look, you can always control being the hardest worker, being the best teammate, communicating with your team, with your coaches. And you can always control those things that no matter how tall you are or how good you shoot the ball, you can impact the game that way.
Great question.
Good question,
I hope you guys are writing things down, because this is some great advice here from Allan Houston.
Yeah. We need to make this a light jog from over here, I think, right? What's your name?
Matthew.
Matthew.
And how did it feel playing in Madison Square Garden, with all the pressure?
Now, that's a good question. Along with playing in Madison Square Garden, everybody understands there's a lot of pressure. You don't know if you miss 2 shots, you're going to get booed. And it's happened. Somebody make a move on you, you might get booed. And I think every player, the reality is not everybody can play in that building. And that's just, to me, it's a fact. It's not an opinion. I've been there for 20 years. So for me, a lot of people thought that because I wasn't a big talker, I wasn't the one, doing all this every time I shot or making all these gestures, people thought, well, this guy doesn't really, I don't know if he has the heart. But I had it in a different way, and I was quietly intense and confident in my own way. And I think you have to find where your confidence and where your inner strength is going to come from, and not worry about pleasing people, the one thing that I found is when players come into New York and if they just play hard and play smart, they're usually okay. So if you play extremely hard, but you don't do it where you're doing dumb stuff, and you're playing smart, then usually things work out. So that's a good question.
Matthew, great question.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get the next question up. Yeah, playing hard and playing smart, two great things.
Dean Smith.
Hi, I'm Darian. I just want to know what was different between college and NBA basketball? Like, we're really like separated.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, well, one, in college, what I found is that I was a 6'6" scoring guard that could handle the ball and can shoot. And that gave me an advantage a lot of times just because I was bigger than everyone. And a lot of times I had more athleticism and I could shoot. So that was really helpful. When I got to the NBA, everybody was my size. Everybody could run as fast as me. Everybody could jump as high as I could. And I found that to be a big adjustment, that I couldn't just take one step and shoot over someone. I had to figure out a lot of strength work, footwork, the speed dramatically increased. But really it was the size, the intensity of the game. And then you're playing 80-some games instead of 30-some. So sleep, your habits, you know, it helped me that being a coach's son, because I could hear my dad say, hey, man, you need to get some sleep. You know, you need to eat this, you need to do these things. And even though it was kind of annoying when I heard it when I was young and in college, when I got to the NBA, I'm like, okay, now I get it, because my body doesn't feel like it felt in college because we're playing 4 days a week instead of once or twice a week. So you really have to take care of your body. In college, you don't have as much time to work on your skills because you got class, you have other things. But in the NBA, that's all you got to worry about. All you should be worrying about, I should say. So it's a job. I think when you get to the NBA, you think, okay, now I'm doing this every day. Do I really, really love doing this? Am I really committed to doing this, where I'm going to get up every single day? And if you're really passionate about it, you feel like this is God's gift and you just want to maximize it, yeah, most guys are okay because they're going to commit to it.
Darian, great question.
Great questions, man. You got to give it up for these questions. These are some, oh, thank you,
Bring
man.
the next guy.
Great questions. We got to jog.
My name is Clinton Springer,
Okay.
and I'm from Connecticut.
What part?
Trumbull.
Trumbull, okay. It's kind of my neighbor.
What was it like playing for Stefan Van Gundy?
Jeff Van Gundy? Jeff was a very good coach. Jeff was very intense, paid attention to the details. I mean, you had to know not only your job, your assignment, but you also had to know what every other player on the court was doing. You had to know what plays, and a lot of teams do this now, but Jeff was very into the details, from the calls on defense to where you're supposed to be. When a player was on the wing as opposed to the top, we might have a different terminology for that place on the floor, and we had to be a certain place accordingly. Very good defensive-minded coach, and I just was a very, very hard worker. Jeff didn't get a lot of sleep, for anyone who remembers watching us play. But he had a good sense of humor. As you hear him on TV now, he was good because he would make you laugh sometimes, even though he's very, very intense, and held you accountable for all the little things. You couldn't get away with a lot with Jeff. Good question.
Awesome question. Okay, we got 4 more guys lined up.
All right. Nice meeting you.
Come on over. You got a Brooklyn Nets fan.
Well, that won't be next year.
Hey, my name is Zach. What was the best game you think you played and how it was?
That's a very good question. I would say Game 6, the Pacers, we won that game to go to the NBA Finals. I had some higher scoring games that people would say I played better, but the only reason I say that game is because of the magnitude of the game. You know, it was the game that we needed to go to literally make it to the NBA championship to have a chance to do that. And I had like 22 points in the fourth quarter, and it was honestly a game that you never know when those times are coming. You don't say, oh yeah, I feel like I'm going to get 50 tonight. I don't think any player ever comes into a game saying, oh man, I'm going to get 20 rebounds a night. I just know it, I feel it. You know, you just prepare and you work, and every day you're in practice, you prepare for one possession at a time. Every free throw you shoot, you pretend like it's the one you need to make, and that's how you prepare, and then you get ready for it. So I would say that was the one.
Okay, great question.
Good question.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
All right. Come on over, get another.
So now you can get a Knicks jersey since
Here we
Darren's
go.
not going to be there anymore.
My name is Nate. I live in New York.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
What's your question?
How do you think Kristaps Porzingis is going to help the Knicks this year?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, I think a lot of people hadn't been able to see him play before Summer League, and they all kind of saw clips of him play. But I think the way Derek Fisher and the staff has set up our system, I think he's going to be effective in different areas. I think if he had not played in this system, I think you would have seen a player that would have to figure out, am I going to post up? Am I going to shoot threes? What am I going to do? And I think in this system, he'll have different areas on the floor, as you kind of saw a little bit in Summer League, where he'll be in different areas on the floor where he can be effective. But I think what people will be pleased with the most is defense. He's very mobile for someone who's 7'2". He moves his feet very well. He's got great length, and he's extremely, extremely hard worker, and he just loves basketball. He really loves basketball, and you can see that he's one that won't get – someone asked about playing in Madison Square Garden. I think he's a guy that will thrive in that because he won't get too emotionally high or low, and he'll just take one possession at a time, and he really wants to be great. So I'm happy. I'm excited for him.
Thank you for your question. He's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
Hello, my name is Gerald Williams, and I'm from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania.
How you doing?
My question is, what is your thoughts on collegiate players coming out of college early? Because sometimes I feel there's some that are ready, and there's a whole lot that are not ready, that are trying to make the league. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, you hit it on the head. I mean, I think the players are a victim of circumstance. You know, when I came out, I played 4 years, and even Shaquille O'Neal played for 3 years. Now, you can't tell me that if Shaquille came out in this day and age that he would play 3 years. Okay, it was just the culture, it was just the way things were, and now things are different. But what is not different, what will never change, is the level of, like you said, maturity, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual maturity that any young man or woman has at that age. Some players or young men will have more than others. The reality is there will be many, many more that are not ready from mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally than that are ready. And even the ones that we would say are ready still need an environment to help them adapt and grow. I mean, you're 18, 19 years old. You know, I mean, even any human development researcher would tell you that, you know, a young man does not really have a maturity or understanding of a lot of things until they're into their 30s, 30 years old. That's just the way life is. So I think we have to just understand that a lot of us and young men are thrown into this big fire, and we have to do everything we can to help them manage it and get used to it. And that's why the more and more I'm involved in the game. I love what the NBA is doing with the D-League and with this development process. A lot of teams are very mindful and conscious of how players are developing, you know, on and off the court. And that's all you can do is put them in a really good environment. And teams are starting to understand that we have to put them in that environment so they can be successful.
Thank you, Gerald, for your question.
Yeah, thanks. Good question.
Here we got one more question, but that's a great opportunities for these young players, but very, very big challenge as well.
Yeah.
My name's Brady.
What's your name?
Brady.
Brady. All right.
I'm from Ohio.
What part?
Defiance.
Where's that?
Northwest corner.
Okay. All right.
My question is, how many 3-points you made in the game?
How many three-pointers have I made in the game? Yeah. My record, that's I think 9.
9.
I think 9. Yeah. I think it was actually against Chicago, I think, against the Bulls. But, yeah, I mean, you know, again, a lot of, I know it keeps sound like a broken record, but it's just a lot of repetition, you know, and then repetition helps your confidence. And for all the shooters, one piece of advice I would say is when you're practicing your shooting, you know, have someone help watch your fundamentals, you know, watch your mechanics. But once you have those mechanics in a good place, don't shoot half speed. Shoot game speed. Shoot the same way you're going to shoot in a game, because why repeat something that's going to happen in a game that's not going to benefit you in a game? So, anyway, good question, Brady.
Thank you, Brady. Good question.
From northeast corner of Ohio.
Yeah. Warriors fan. Final question for Allan Houston. Yeah. What emotions do you feel here when you come into the Basketball Hall of Fame?
Sometimes, really all. I mean, you know, I think one of the questions was how did I feel playing against Michael? And I mean, growing up, all these images, a lot of these images were, you didn't have social media, you didn't have the internet, didn't have go on your computer and you can watch a whole game. So a lot of the image that we saw growing up were like, you had to catch it at one time, like on CBS, you know, or something like that, on a newspaper, or you had to get a poster or something. You didn't have the access to the images that you see of the players all the time, so it was rare to kind of see. So, for me, looking at the history of even the baskets, the peach baskets are all the way, and seeing how the game has grown, it's just amazing to be in a museum of all the memories and the history. And I just go back to what the game has meant to me in my life, the way I even grew up. I grew up on a basketball court, and it's taught me so much, brought me to so many places around the world, and given me so many life lessons. So it's a lot of emotions. I don't know if I could put it on one.
All right. Okay. Well done. We'll give it up for Allan Houston.
Thank you.